Hi, I'm Dr. Julian Tong. Today I've written an article on my blog which discusses a potential use case for blockchain technology, and I think it is a very important use case, and I think probably the only reasonable and viable use case. So let me explain. In the last few years, there have been a growing trend. I think, or maybe it has waned a little bit in the last year or so, but there had been this trend, which is a lot of social media accounts basically just talking nonsense, practically nonsense about blockchain technology, about how it's going to change the world without any substance. And they think that a lot of people would buy it, and indeed, a lot of people had bought it. But what I'm going to say here is that those, of course, those are just confidence schemes. But I'm not going to go into criticizing those guys. They make money, all right. So what I'm going to say is for international trade and investment, I've realized that just in the last couple of days that blockchain actually has a very important application, and I think this could be a solution that a lot of major economies have already been working on, but without our full knowledge. So this is what I realized. The background of this is that most of the international trade and investment have been carried out in the US dollar since the end of the World War II, right? That was in the beginning the Bretton Woods system, and then after the Nixon shock, which basically at first temporarily but later permanently decoupled the dollar from gold. So there was no longer a possibility to exchange dollar for gold, and currency exchange rates, which were intended to be fixed, became floating. This actually changed the definition of dollar. So a lot of people would argue that the dollar that we use today was only less than 50 years old. This was from 1971. So that's the background. That a lot of trade and investment are carried out in dollars, and that's the United States has this unique advantage in that it can export dollar in exchange for goods. And this is what's so interesting. I didn't put it in the article, but something that is very interesting, which is that a lot of more conservative politicians and voices, not just politicians, but also people in the United States, are unsatisfied about their trade deficit, about their current account deficit. But that's basically bullshit. Either they don't understand or they intentionally mislead, because the unique advantage of the United States is that it is able to export dollar in exchange for goods, and dollar it can produce at virtually no cost. Some, of course, in theory, it couldn't produce too much dollar, because otherwise it would impact the confidence in the dollar. Maybe people will stop using dollar. Those were hypotheticals. We have seen that the Federal Reserve have a lot of power in quantitative easing, and in the last couple of months they have been quite aggressive with their monetary policy. So I think obviously we can say, let's say that if they print 100 times the dollar as it is available today, maybe that's going to pose a problem. But if they just increase the monetary supply by a factor of 2, 3, it appears that there is no punishment. So that means they have this unique advantage. That's the background. Now, for some other countries, however, who lack this advantage, not being able to use the dollar is quite essential. Having to hold a foreign exchange reserve for a growing trade and investment means that they need to continually export goods to the United States and get dollars so that they can continue on, right? And continue on functioning. Where at the same time, they also need to be how to say, in the good grace of the United States, because their transactions can be blocked, and their U.S. dollar transactions can be blocked. The use of U.S. dollar could be sanctioned, and so trade investment is largely controlled monetarily and thereby politically by the United States. And a lot of countries are not every country, let's say, is in U.S.'s good grace. Let's say this, right? So I think there could be, and there may well be, and I think there is a call to decouple from the US dollar, to find a monetary mechanism, a system whereby countries they don't need to adopt a single currency, a single national currency that is controlled by any single country. By the same time, they have through this mechanism the ability to trade frictionlessly. And I think this is where actually blockchain could fit in. And I think it is very likely that a lot of countries, I'm not going to name names, but a lot of the major economies may have already been co-developing some solutions based on blockchain because of the news that some countries are quite enthusiastic about blockchain. And I really doubted, and I still don't think so, that they would be playing with the cryptocurrencies like those social media confidence schemes would lead you to believe. I don't think so. I think what they are trying to do is building a mechanism using the blockchain technology so that trading partners and perhaps eventually all the countries in the world would adopt a mechanism so that they can easily use a blockchain-based solution, perhaps with some type of fixed exchange rates to ensure frictionless trade without having to hold a reserve currency. I think this is possible. There are many different ways to doing it, and I don't think a conclusion has been reached with regards to how exactly this will be implemented, but I think it's a possibility. And the advantage of this is that it will be quite, it will be consensus based, just like blockchain, right? Just like Bitcoin. It will be consensus based so that not a single country can enforce a sanction, monetary sanction on another country. And so that trade and investment can be unhindered by politics. And secondly, there's going to be increased amount of transparency, which again is actually contrary to a lot of the confidence schemes would lead you to believe on social media. Because the advantage of blockchain is not that it's good for privacy. It isn't. It is good for transparency, so that it is known for everyone that the transaction has been going on. And so when a certain type of sanction must be implemented, for example, if some country violates international agreements, it is much easier to enforce. So that's also a good thing, right? And of course, lastly, because it's not a monetary union, it avoids a lot of the problems of monetary unions. I'm not entirely sure that currently there isn't enough political will for this to become a reality. I think, however, there are in some countries the push to develop this system, and when the situation is right, when the conditions mature, this could be introduced. And this, of course, is just my view on how this technology could help us, right? In a world where trade and investment are less affected by politics, but more by the benefits that they can bring. And so this is my view on this article on blockchain, and I will put the link in the description to the entire written article. I will continue to write and think and write on this subject in the coming days and weeks. Thank you for watching this video, and have a great day.